Imagine you are sitting beside a fire somewhere in Ice Age Europe, maybe 28,000 years ago. The sun disappeared hours ago. The meat is already eaten. The useful work is mostly finished. You have no phone, no music app, no books, no television, no soft bed, no door you can lock, and absolutely no glowing rectangle to rescue you from your own thoughts. Around you, people are wrapped in skins, half tired and half nervous. The fire throws orange light on the cave wall. Outside, the forest is black. Something cracks a branch. Everyone hears it. Nobody says anything for a second. And then comes the strangest problem. Nothing is happening. Not enough danger to run, not enough food to chase, not enough daylight to travel. Just waiting, watching, listening, being trapped with your group, your memories, your fears, and maybe one annoying cousin who keeps clicking two bones together because he thinks it sounds interesting. So what did ancient humans do when they were bored? Did they just stare into the fire until bedtime? Did they go slowly insane without entertainment? Or was boredom one of the hidden engines that helped create stories, games, tools, music, art, teaching, and culture? And here is the bigger question. How did ancient humans survive a world where even free time could become dangerous? Because boredom today is annoying. Boredom in the Stone Age could get you eaten, injured, excluded, or simply unprepared for tomorrow. By the end of this story, you may not see boredom as empty time anymore. You may see it as one of the places where the human mind sharpened itself. The quiet moment after dinner was not just nothing to do. It was a classroom, a theater, a workshop, a family argument, and sometimes the beginning of art. Modern boredom usually means your video froze, your battery died, or your algorithm betrayed you. Ancient boredom meant you were alive, for now, and your brain still had to do something useful before the night did something useful to you. The first thing to understand is that ancient people probably did not have as much empty time as we imagine. There was always something to repair, carry, scrape, dry, watch, sharpen, clean, crack open, tie together, or stop a child from putting in their mouth. A modern person hears hunter-gatherer and imagines non-stop panic, running from mammoths all day, screaming at wolves all night, and occasionally inventing pants by accident. But real life was more complicated. Some days were exhausting. Some days had long stretches of waiting. After a hunt, after a meal, during bad weather, during winter darkness, there were moments when the body stopped and the mind kept moving. And this is the part most people forget. A bored human is not always a relaxed human. A bored human starts experimenting. That can be brilliant. It can also be extremely stupid. Picture one young person near the fire, poking a burning stick into dry grass just to see what happens. Another tosses stones at a shadow. A child wanders toward the cave mouth because the darkness looks interesting. Somewhere in the background, an older woman gives the universal prehistoric face that means, I have watched 3 people die from decisions exactly like this. So the group needed ways to turn restless energy into something safer, not just fun, controlled fun, useful fun, fun that did not end with a leopard dragging away the comedian. That is where the first answer appears. Ancient humans probably played. Not in the exact way we play today. No board games with printed rules, no plastic toys. But play is much older than civilization. Young wolves wrestle. Young primates chase, grab, hide, and test each other. Play is a way to practice danger when the danger is not fully real yet. For humans, that may have been huge. A child throwing a small spear at a mark is not just wasting time. That child is learning distance, aim, patience, and disappointment. Mostly disappointment. A teenager balancing on a log is not just showing off. They are learning body control. Two kids pretending to sneak up on each other are building the same skills they may need later to track animals, hide from threats, or move quietly through brush. Here is the detail that changes everything. In small human groups, play could become training without feeling like training. Imagine a child trying to copy an adult toolmaker. The adult is shaping stone with careful hits. The child picks up a smaller rock and smashes it confidently into the wrong thing. A flake jumps away. Everyone flinches. The child looks proud. The adult looks tired. But that messy imitation is not meaningless. It is the beginning of skill. Modern schools separate learning from play. Ancient life probably mixed them together. Children learned by watching, copying, failing, and being corrected by people who needed the next generation to survive. And now, keep this in mind because it matters later. Boredom gave children room to practice when the stakes were lower. Not low, nothing was ever completely low, but lower than trying your first spear throw during an actual hunt, while an angry animal is deciding whether your ribs are a suggestion. The second answer is stories. When the fire was alive and the night was too dark to move through safely, stories may have been one of the most powerful things humans had. Not just entertainment, stories were memory with a heartbeat. A story could say, "Do not drink from that place in the dry season." It could say, "That valley looks safe, but snakes hide under those stones." It could say, "Remember the man who ignored everyone and climbed the wet cliff? Exactly. Do not be that man." In a world without writing, stories were storage devices. They carried maps, warnings, jokes, rules, family history, animal behavior, and emotional lessons. Today, we save information in files. They saved information in people. But here is where it gets strange. A story does not have to be boringly practical to be useful. In fact, it works better when people want to hear it. If you tell a child, "Avoid the marsh after sunset because of predation risk," congratulations, you have invented a lecture and lost the audience. If you tell them, "The marsh is where the shining eyes wait for children who wander," now the child is listening. Maybe the story is dramatic. Maybe it is exaggerated. Maybe the shining eyes are a crocodile, a big cat, or just the memory of somebody who never came back. The point is that emotion makes memory stick. Fear sticks. Humor sticks. Embarrassment sticks. If one hunter made a terrible mistake and everyone turned it into a funny story, that poor hunter became a public safety announcement with legs. So around the fire, boredom may have created an audience. And an audience created pressure to tell the story better. Better timing, better gestures, better voices, and a bigger pause before the scary part. One person becomes known as the one who tells the good version. Another becomes known as the one who ruins every story by correcting the details. Yes, even 30,000 years ago, somebody was probably saying, "Actually, the bison was smaller." The third answer is music and rhythm. This sounds like a luxury until you imagine the scene. A group is tired. The weather is bad. The hunt failed. People are tense. Someone begins tapping a steady beat with sticks or bones. Another person hums. A child laughs. The mood shifts. That may sound small, but in a small group close to danger, mood is not small. Mood is social weather. Rhythm can pull people together. It can make bodies move in the same timing. It can calm, excite, organize, or mark a moment as special. You do not need a concert hall. You need hands, feet, breath, bone, wood, stone, and a group of people who have been staring at the same fire for too long. And we are not completely guessing here. Archaeologists have found very old musical instruments. One famous example is the bone and ivory flutes from caves in what is now Germany, associated with early modern humans in the Upper Paleolithic. They show that music was not just a modern extra added after serious survival was complete. Music appears deep in our prehistoric story. Now, we cannot say some Ice Age person played a flute because they were bored on a Tuesday. Archaeology is powerful, but it is not a diary. Still, the existence of instruments tells us something important. Ancient humans invested time and skill into sound. Think about that. Making a flute from bone or ivory is not like accidentally whistling through a grass stem. It takes planning, materials, careful shaping, holes placed with intention, and enough cultural value that somebody bothered. That is the part that feels almost unfair. While other animals were surviving with claws, teeth, speed, and smell, humans were sitting in caves, making objects that turned breath into pattern. Physically, humans were not impressive. No claws, no built-in armor, no night vision worth bragging about, not fast enough to outrun many predators, not strong enough to wrestle large animals unless the plan was to become a tragic lesson. A bear looked at a human and probably did not think, ah yes, the future ruler of the planet. It probably thought, odd skinny thing, throws rocks, smells like smoke. But the odd skinny thing had rhythm. It had memory. It had imitation. It had group emotion. And sometimes, when there was nothing urgent to do, it made sound on purpose. The fourth answer is art, decoration, and making the world mean something. A bored modern person doodles in a notebook. An ancient person might scratch lines into ochre, carve bone, string shells, paint on a wall, shape a bead, or decorate a tool handle. Not always because they were bored, of course. Art can be ritual, identity, teaching, courtship, memory, status, or something we do not fully understand. But it often requires one thing: time beyond the immediate bite of hunger. Some of the oldest known symbolic objects are not giant paintings of heroic hunts. Sometimes they are simple marks, cross-hatched lines, repeated patterns, pigments prepared and used carefully. To a modern eye, it may look like someone dragged a crayon over a stone and called it a day. But those marks can be evidence of a mind playing with pattern, meaning, memory, and maybe identity. And here's the thing that actually happened. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, researchers reported a cross-hatched ochre drawing from levels around 73,000 years old. It is not a cartoon. It is not a portrait. It is a set of deliberate marks. But that is exactly why it matters. Before humans filled cave walls with animals, they were already making patterns that suggest symbolic behavior. Later, in places like Chauvet Cave in France, we see astonishing animal images deep underground. We do not know the exact reasons people made them. Maybe ritual, maybe teaching, maybe stories, maybe several things at once. But nobody crawls into deep darkness, brings light, and paints powerful animals because there was absolutely no inner life happening. This is where the story gets bigger than boredom. When humans had time, they did not only rest. They transformed surfaces. They turned walls into memory. They turned objects into signals. They turned bodies into messages with beads, paint, scars, hair, feathers, shells, or anything else that said, "This is who I am. This is who we are. This matters." And yes, somewhere in the group, one person probably looked at the painting and said, "The legs are wrong." That person has existed in every century. The fifth answer is toolmaking. This may be the least glamorous form of entertainment ever invented, but it might have saved more lives than dancing. After food, after travel, after danger, people still had to prepare tomorrow. A spear point breaks. A scraper dulls. A cord loosens. A hide needs softening. A basket needs repair. A stone core can be worked. A bone needle can be shaped. A handle can be tied better. To us, that sounds like chores. To them, chores were survival insurance. And boredom probably made hands busy. If you are sitting near the fire and your mind is restless, you can sharpen, you can scrape, you can test, you can improve. One tiny improvement might matter later. A smoother point, a stronger knot, a better balance on a throwing stick. A A repaired container that does not spill berries across the ground like a very sad prehistoric comedy. This is also where trial and error becomes almost beautiful. Ancient technology did not appear because one genius woke up and invented everything before breakfast. It grew through thousands of small tests. What happens if the stone is hit here? What happens if this wood is heated? What happens if sinew dries like this? What happens if fat is rubbed into hide? Most experiments probably failed. Some failed quietly, some failed with smoke, shouting, and a smell everyone remembered. But if one person discovered a better way and taught it, the whole group gained from that mistake. Bored hands became experimental hands. Experimental hands became culture. The sixth answer is social life. This is not a small thing. For ancient humans, the group was not just company. The group was shelter, insurance, defense, childcare, food sharing, information storage, and emotional survival. Being alone was dangerous. Being disliked could be dangerous too. So what did people do when bored? They watched each other. They joked. They flirted. They argued. They copied. They judged. They formed bonds. They repaired bonds. They learned who was generous, who was lazy, who panicked, who shared food, who told good stories, who could be trusted on a hunt, and who should never be allowed near the sharp tools after getting too excited. Modern people call this gossip like it is shallow. In a small group, social information could be life-saving. Knowing who keeps promises matters. Knowing who steals matters. Knowing who cares for children matters. Knowing who stays calm when the firewood runs low matters. And this is the uncomfortable turn. Boredom may have made humans more socially dangerous. When nothing is happening, people notice everything. A glance lasts too long. A joke lands badly. Someone gets more meat than someone else. Two people sit too close. A child repeats something they were definitely not supposed to hear. Suddenly, the quiet evening becomes a social battlefield with smoke, side eyes, and one old man pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. But that social pressure also trained the human mind. It made people better at reading faces, voices, gestures, silence, status, and tension. Before humans built cities, they were already living in complicated emotional networks. The bored cave was not empty. It was politics with fur blankets. The seventh answer is planning. When bodies rested, minds could travel ahead. Tomorrow's route, the next water source, the herd's direction, the season changing, the dangerous ridge, the safe crossing, the place where berries ripen, the place where they found good stone last year. A group around the fire could turn memory into strategy. One person remembers tracks near the river. Another remembers that the river floods after heavy rain. Someone else remembers sickness near the dead reeds. An older hunter says the animals may move toward higher ground. A younger person wants to go anyway, because younger people are traditionally sponsored by terrible confidence. This discussion matters. This is language acting like a survival app, but made of breath. Without maps, people carried landscapes in stories. Without weather reports, they read clouds, animal movement, wind, snow, mud, and smell. Without calendars, they watched seasons through bodies and land. Now step back and look at what boredom has become. It started as a funny question. What did ancient humans do without phones? But the answer is not just, they entertained themselves. They trained children through play. They stored survival knowledge in stories. They bonded through rhythm and movement. They made art and symbols. They repaired tools. They experimented. They negotiated social life. They planned tomorrow. They turned waiting into a machine that produced skill, memory, identity, and group intelligence. And here is the dark twist. Boredom did not disappear when humans became more advanced. It may be one of the reasons we became advanced. A restless mind is dangerous because it can make bad choices, but it is also powerful because it asks, what if? What if this sound becomes a rhythm? What if this mark means something? What if this child learns with a toy spear before the real hunt? What if this story keeps someone away from the marsh? What if this broken tool can be better? What if tomorrow we go around the ridge instead of over it? That question, repeated for thousands of generations, changes a species. Ancient humans did not need entertainment because life was easy. They needed meaningful activity because life was hard. Boredom was not a blank space. It was the pressure that pushed the mind to fill the dark. So, when you imagine a caveman bored beside a fire, do not picture a stupid creature staring at a wall. Picture someone listening to the night and tapping a rhythm with a bone. Someone carving a pattern into stone. Someone telling children why the river is dangerous. Someone repairing a spear that may save a life tomorrow. Someone laughing at a joke that makes the group feel less afraid. The human mind does not like empty darkness. It fills it with sound, stories, symbols, plans, games, warnings, and beauty. That is the layered answer. When ancient humans were bored, they played, practiced, taught, told stories, made music, danced, decorated, repaired tools, watched each other, argued, bonded, planned, and experimented. Some of it was fun. Some of it was survival. Most of it was probably both. They did not survive because they were the strongest animal in the Ice Age. They survived because even when nothing was happening, their minds were still hunting. And the next time your phone battery dies and you feel like civilization has personally abandoned you, remember this. One of your ancestors once sat in the dark with no screen, no snacks, no Wi-Fi, and no safe walls, and somehow used that empty time to help invent culture. So maybe you can survive 5 minutes in line without scrolling. Maybe.